Hello and welcome to another special Digital Beans podcast. Yes, it's our normal Scale Up Stories podcast, but we're in collaboration with the Taste of Kent Awards, who celebrate and commend the finest Kent food and drink businesses. The top threes are out now. You can go to the Taste of Kent Awards website to find out all about them and the different categories, where the awards will be taking place and when, all on their website right now. Luckily enough, today, we're not just going to be joined by one guest. We're not just going to be joined by two guests. We're going to be joined by three guests today, three fantastic business owners who are thriving in a very ambitious and competitive Kent food and drink industry. Claire Eckley of Eckley Farms, they're up for the Grow Award, is going to be joining me a little bit later on. Emma Barnes, who's up for the prestigious Community Award of Emma's Kitchen, is going to be joining me. But first, we're going to start with the Kent Cider of the Year category, a category that is close to my heart. There is nothing like a Kent summer's day and having a glass of cold cider to go with it. Basher Original for the Canterbury Cider is the drink that is up as a finalist within that category. Also Curious Brewery for their Curious Apple, and Dudas Tun Cider, their Disco Cider, is also up for the award. So I spoke to George, who's one of the directors at Canterbury Cider, about the nomination, and off air he had told me that he'd been on the farm in the morning, which is alien to me. I literally had some Kellogg's cornflakes and literally had been sat at the laptop typing out emails all morning. Not him. He'd been hard at graft on the farm. So I asked him at the very, very start of the interview what it's like day to day running a farm.
It's a bit of a weird one, really. I mean, we're running our arable farm that's in between Ashford and Canterbury, where Canterbury Cider is our headquarters. So this morning I was up in the yard at 7:30 with the other workers, getting told to do what to do. So I was out on the tractor this morning, rolling our spring wheat down in Godmersham. So yeah, I mean, it's a lovely morning for it, really. It's the sun's shining and everything, so can't really complain, to be honest. But
can I ask you a really off-topic question that I've always wanted to ask someone who drives a tractor?
Go on. Yeah.
Do you get as annoyed when you're driving on the road and you've got cars lined up behind you as the cars behind you get annoyed when you're driving on the road? Because obviously it's not your fault, but like it must be a shared annoyance in some ways. Like you can't go any faster than you are.
No, it does get in the back of my mind. I always do get a bit self-conscious about how slow I'm going, but then I realise how well I can't go any faster. So
yeah.
I have to kind of almost accept it. I mean, my dad, when I first started driving tractors when I was, I think, 17, 18, I guess I was learning to drive at that point, but you're allowed to drive tractors, which is a bit odd. But my dad said to me, don't worry about anyone else behind you, just concentrate on the road, which I think is a fair point, because realistically, you're bigger than everyone else, so you've got to be safe. So.
and if you wanted to, just drive over them. From the farming business to Canterbury Cider, I mean, you can hit on it a little bit if you want. It's very much a family-run business. Tell us a little bit about the businesses your mum and your dad are currently running. Tell us a bit more about Canterbury Cider.
Sure. So Canterbury Cider, I guess it's my dad has been making cider for quite a few years now, actually, and it was more of a hobby for my dad, and I think he kind of grasped that off my granddad Peter, who started farming at Bilting in 1954, and he's like I said, he started making cider, but it was a hobby for him as well, Peter, and he would make the cider, throughout the year, and then when it came to harvest, he would take out his cider to the workers, on the fields and stuff who were harvesting, and it was a really nice touch, and I think my dad kind of grasped that as well and started to make it and tried finding his recipes that he made when he was younger, and I think from dad's kind of experience in it, and then passing it to kind of me, my brother and my sister, Henry and Emily, we've all enjoyed it. So now we've almost combined it all together and started Canterbury Cider. So it's almost come off the back of a hobby, really. And I think a lot of companies are like that, I think. So it's been a bit of a strange one, really. But for Dad, I think it's really exciting because it's now a bigger thing than just a hobby.
Yeah, of course. And there's many people out there getting these home cider kits and doing it as a, as a bit of a hobby. How hard is it to produce cider like you produce it? What is that process like?
It's well for me. I hadn't really gotten into the whole making side. I was more just drinking it, which wasn't too bad. But now obviously I'm in I'm a partner in the business and what have you. It's been a really good learning curve to kind of pick up things that Dad's kind of taught me along the way. This last year, but we actually went to a masterclass, they call it, foundation. With this chap called Peter Mitchell down in Gloucester, about a year and a half ago now, actually, when Canterbury Cider became a business and what have you. And I think for me, that really helped me. It was about a week long, and it basically taught you everything that you needed to. I mean, there was a lot of people there who knew what they were doing already, like my dad. But for an amateur like me and my mum who came along, it was quite striking how long the process actually takes. There's a lot more things that go into it. I mean, when you think of cider, you think apples, apple juice, a bit of sugar, maybe a bit of water, but there's a lot more behind it. So I mean, it is pretty amazing when you actually come out of a product and people actually enjoy it.
Yeah, no, I imagine, and with it, where do you think it's going to take you? Is the overall goal to create more ciders, create a bit of a brand, and have many ciders, or do you want to go into the hospitality trade? What is it for you?
I think for us, I mean, even being nominated for Kent Cider of the Year, it's pretty amazing. I mean, in our first year, I mean, we're over the moon that we have, but at the same time, we're quite shocked. But I think definitely, we want to make more ciders. We've got quite a few at the moment that are in maturation, so at the end of their kind of fermentation and the whole kind of producing side of it, that's coming to an end. So hopefully by the summer we'll have quite a few different other varieties. But I think at the moment we want to, stay local, stay in Kent and try and push out slowly, push out to other places, potentially in London and further. But I think at the moment we only wanted to take baby steps and not get too ahead of ourselves, because I think it's just important to make good craft cider rather than your kind of throwaway party cider. We want to make the proper stuff. So
yeah, no, I completely 100% with you on that. And you mentioned there about being nominated or a finalist in Kent Cider of the Year. Let's face it, you're a finalist with Dunnes Ton Cider, which obviously Dunnes Ton Cider that do the disco cider, and Curious Apple from Curious Brewery, which obviously Curious Brewery are quite a big local brand when it comes to alcohol and ciders here in Kent. How do you feel? How does your dad feel that you've managed to, in your first year, be nominated, be a finalist?
Yeah, I think it's just a privilege, really, to be sat next to them two brewers. It's something to kind of, we can take our hat off and we can go, that's brilliant. That's really, really good. And like I said, just to be sat next to them, it's awesome. And just to be recognised as, a favourite in Kent, it is quite nice. I mean, like I said before, it's maybe a little bit, it shocked us a bit because of how much maybe people do enjoy the cider. I guess we kind of came into it as hopefully some people will like it and we can slowly build up and what have you. But yeah, it's I think we're just surprised, really. But at the same time, we're really grateful for everyone who's kind of voted for us and even bought the cider. So,
do you think the past 12 months and the fact that lockdown potentially happened might have helped you a little bit? People at home looking for new drinks, people looking for an experience on their couch, something local. We all know how local has, so to speak, or consumers helping to support local business has helped grow e-commerce within local businesses. Do you think that's helped you? Do you think that has been a good factor in the past 12 months?
Yeah, bizarrely, I do. I spoke about it the other day with KMTV. I think the great thing about the positive side that's come out of this lockdown, the few lockdowns that we've had, is that people are wanting to support local. And I think hopefully that will continue. Whether or not it does or doesn't, we've all got our fingers crossed that it does, because I think it really homes in on how good local produce is. I mean, there's us making cider, but then there's other people making fresh fruit, bread and all sorts of things, milk, cheese, what have you. So I think the quality that you get from a local producer is 10 times better than something that you might get that's been made, through a kind of machine or something. I mean, I guess that's quite broad, but I think hopefully it will kind of continue, and I think it's definitely helped. But I mean, the last 12 months has been a bit of a weird one, because at the same time, we've wanted to kind of get into some local pubs, but we can't. But on the same side, you do have that, like you've just stated, about the people wanting to buy local.
Mm-hmm. Is that happening now? Is getting into pubs and trying to get mass product out the door a little bit quicker? Is that whole process kicking off for you now?
Yeah, slowly. We've got a couple of pubs that we're talking to at the moment, and we're trying to negotiate around what's kind of the long-term goal, and how much we can get into the pubs. Previously, last year, we only made a batch of about 4,000 litres. 2,000 litres. So it's a very, very small amount. But this year, we've made almost double that. So I think for us at the moment, we need enough to kind of last us till our next batch comes into cycle. So it's a bit of a difficult one with trying to get it into pubs at the moment because of our product line behind us. But I think when we get over our last year's cycle, we should be able to kind of slowly integrate ourselves into pubs.
How long does that whole cycle take, by the way? So how long is that? I know we've hit on the process a little bit, but what sort of cycles are you working in at the moment?
So I think with the production line, I think, you're roughly looking at 8 months for your final product. I mean, that's kind of what we go on. It's all subjective. I mean, someone else might take them 5 months, 4 months, but we like to kind of leave it a little bit longer just to let it mature. Mm-hmm. And kind of get the real kind of flavors out of the cider and the apples.
But that, again, that's a process you can't rush, though. And this is what I said, and this is what I always say, and I've said so many times on this. When you take a local product or a product that's been made locally, there's a huge difference to that product that you see on the shelf that might be a little bit cheaper potentially. It's that love, it's that experience that goes into it. As you say, you leave it an extra couple of months. You can't speed up that process.
No.
Others would be rushing at the bit to get it out early to try and make sure that, that's ticked a box, let's go. Yeah. You don't do that. And I think that is what buying local is all about. And that's what pays dividends as a consumer. So when you try that product and you experience that produce, it's on a different planet. It's on a different world. And I think, knowing those cycles and knowing this information you're sharing, I think that is the stuff that you don't see, on the shelf. No. They're the things that you don't know about. And I think it's really important to share that message.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Which is great. Yeah. Sorry, was you going to say something, George? Sorry,
no. Like you said, it's, I think today, I think a lot of people have this perception of kind of getting something quickly in their hands. And I think sometimes it just takes a second just to take a back step and go, actually, have a little bit of patience, going to actually go and get this and this. And I think some people kind of struggle to get their head around it in the sense of, why would I buy this if I can get it for cheaper? And that's absolutely fine. Mm-hmm. But I think if you, like I said, if you take a second just to think about it and taste it and try it, I think you will be surprised about local produce.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And you mentioned about year on year, you've sort of doubled your units and you're creating more than ever. Is that the idea now? You just want to each cycle double and double and double and keep going? Is that sustainable? Is that scalable for you?
Yeah, I think we'll probably see how we get on with this second cycle coming in. I mean, like I said, we've kind of like doubled in production. And obviously with sales, you've got to kind of calculate the sales, what's going in, what's coming out, etc. But I think it's something that we will have to kind of assess as we go along. I mean, there's going to be a lot of cider, so it depends. Hopefully, when we get out of all these lockdowns and we do get into pubs slowly, we can then potentially go and make some more. But I think, like I said before, baby steps. I think so.
With the Euros on this summer and hopefully some nice weather and lockdown being over, I think there's going to be a lot of cider consumed this summer, potentially, by me alone. This has been fantastic. One last thing, George, I just want to ask you. We've noticed that we've mentioned about how good it is to just be a finalist. I can see on your website the badge has taken pride of place right next to your product. It means a lot to you guys.
Yes, yeah.
How good would winning it be, though?
It's a good question. I think it would mean a lot. Like I've touched upon previously, being in our first year of production and just as a company, I think it would mean a huge amount, not only to us, but to the people who have kind of bought into it, bought the cider, shared posts and kind of supported us along this year. It would probably mean for us more to them. Just because of them kind of supporting us and especially what Producer Kent have done, they've supported us, and it will give us a lot of kind of credit going forward. So hopefully, fingers crossed, but it will mean a huge amount to us, and we got our fingers crossed. So we'll see.
Well, it's great to see another family business doing so well in the county. So well done, George. Well done to you and your family, and best of luck in the Cider of the Year category.
Thank you. Cheers, Ben.
What a wonderful chat that was with George of Canterbury Cider, a business well on the up. Let me tell you, they are finalists. They're in the top 3 for a Taste of Kent award. Their Basher Original Cider is the one that has picked it for them. You can go out and check the other nominees, the other finalists. Curious Brewery for their Curious Apple Cider and Dudas Ton Cider for their Disco Cider. Those nominees and more information about the Kent Cider of the Year and this year's Taste of Kent Awards up on the Taste of Kent Awards website. Right, we move on to our second guest. Right, our second guest, we've got another one after this. The Community of the Year Award this year is recognising some fantastic individuals within the Kent community who have supported local business and local people like no other. It's something that's truly unique to the Kent food and drink industry, and we are going to be recognising not just one individual on the night, but all 3 finalists that have been picked. Eddie and Heather from Olby Soul Cafe, Carrara, Paul and Riley Barbara, also up for the Kent Community Award, and our next guest, Emma Barnes of Emma's Kitchen. It was so amazing to catch up with Emma and talk to her a little bit about her story and just give us a little bit of background on what's been keeping her busy during lockdown and why she's up for this award. So I suppose the natural starting place for my chat with Emma was to ask her how she felt being nominated for this award.
Overwhelmed, really. It was complete shock.
Yeah. What was you like when you first saw it?
Well, I couldn't believe it to say. And then when they emailed me to say that I'd been nominated, and then when Joe rang me to say I'd been shortlisted, I was just like, no, I don't really know what I've done to deserve it, do you know? So no, it was lovely, really nice.
What do you think you've done to deserve it? That was going to lead me on to my next question. What for the community award? What have the last 12 months been like for you, and how has Emma's Kitchen managed to sort of evolve to help during the pandemic?
Well, roller coaster, I think would be the. So I was made redundant in June, and Emma's Kitchen started in September, and we were literally just doing the school dinners for the local school, which from September till December was a really sharp learning curve. It was something I'd never done before, but great. And we were getting the numbers up and the children really enjoying the food. And obviously then they shut the schools in January. So we were like, oh, okay, right, now we need to do something to survive this next period. And what we did was rather than doing the vouchers or the hampers, which we know all the news reports that came from that, we did our own hampers where we were making 5 school dinners a week so that the children could have 5 meals a week with fresh fruit and desserts and bread. And then from the first lockdown, what I'd realised is kids are always hungry and kids always want snacks and they always want feeding. And when you're trying to work from home and homeschool, it's a nightmare. So we introduced these school to home hampers where we sold a week's worth of school dinners for the same price that the parents would be paying if the children were in school. And that was really overwhelming. And then we decided to do school dinners in the community as well. So we took these school dinners that we were cooking for the key worker children and helping elderly people in the village and the surrounding community, you know, people who couldn't get out or see their families, so that they were getting a hot meal every day as well.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. You say you don't know why you're up for the award. That's amazing. That's really, really good. And do you know, it's funny that you said there about the one thing that you've noticed is that kids always want food. They always want something to eat. They always want a snack. Funnily enough, my daughter, she'll wake up and she'll have some of her breakfast, and then she'll always eat her packed lunch in the car. Doesn't matter what time of day it is. She won't leave her packed lunch, and she won't eat it unless she's in the car on her way somewhere. So she always has that about mid-morning. Then it feels like she doesn't eat until we put on dinner, and then she wants to eat on the lead up to dinner, so she doesn't eat dinner. Like literally, it's like every single time dinner goes on, it's like snack time. It's like, no, Myla, you can have your snack after dinner.
Oh.
It's nearly dinner time.
Mine are just hungry all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, oh God, I can't keep up.
You can never have enough food in the house. But surely that being, as you say, that being a mum as well, what you've done for the local community, this must mean a lot to you now, Emma's Kitchen. I know it was born maybe out of times that were tough for you because of, you know, being made redundant, unemployment as well. But surely this is one of the most rewarding things you've ever done. Yeah,
it's become a real passion, and the trying to get children to have a healthy school dinner and trying to get children to try new foods, it's become a bit of an obsession, really, I think. And it's all I talk about and it's all I put on my social media, but it's so important. And the irony is I went to the same primary school that I work in now, and I said to the head teacher, I said, 30 years ago, I never thought I would be working in the kitchen of the school where I went to primary school. You know, it's funny how things turn out for a reason, because if I hadn't been made redundant, I wouldn't be doing something that I love now.
Yeah, that's amazing. I remember I was having a chat with my best mate who I went to primary school with, and we were reminiscing over primary school dinners. When was we in primary school? About 20 years ago. Hot dog days, fish and chip Fridays, the turkey Twizzler days. Oh, how that has changed. Yes, how that has all changed. And I remember that there used to be a salad day, but for people who didn't like salad, like it would be stuff like burgers. And it'd be like, well, it's just burger day then. Like it's not salad day at all. But it's interesting with how far we've all come with food and taste. Have you got any stories around maybe the foods that you're trying to encourage children to eat and what those foods are?
So the children usually, so it's always a roast on a Wednesday, and other caterers do fish and chips every Friday, but we have it as Fun Friday. So we do burgers, hot dogs and fish. But what we try to do is, so one day on the week, we have apple, cheese and crackers for dessert, which kids love. I didn't know that they would love it so much, but they do. But what we do is we bring in like a guest cheese, and then each table has a plate of brie or halloumi or Stilton. So they get to try all these different flavours that they might not necessarily have at home. And one other thing that's on the menu at the moment is katsu curry, which my kids love, but not everyone has tried it. So you can have the chicken and the rice, but what we say to the children is take a little pot of sauce and dip your chicken into it and see if you like it. So just really trying to encourage the children to try new foods that they might not try at home.
They'll be having curry sauce with their fish and chips in no time, Emma. No time. Oh, I love that. It's almost like they get a little cheese board as well on those days too, which is just such a nice thing for the kids to try these different like taste and flavors. I know so many. Yeah. I've got a nephew, brother-in-law who are now just turning 18, and their flavor, their palate is so bland, it's so beige. Surely for the next generation coming through, part of the aim is to make sure that they are able to experiment with flavors themselves, experiment with different tastes, so that they've got a much more extensive palate. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, my children, I'm really lucky. We go to Spain quite a lot, so they eat a lot of prawns and fish and Spanish foods, you know, cured meats and things like that. But some children, like the katsu curry, they're like, oh, I don't like that. I said, it's essentially the same as a chicken nugget. It's just chicken in breadcrumbs. But they, you know, because everything we do is homemade, they're not used to the breadcrumbs sort of, you know, being slightly different on each chicken breast or anything. So, but yeah, no, it's good.
I know you gave us a bit of an overview in terms of what the last few months have been, and you slightly hit on as well what Emma's Kitchen is. But just for anyone out there who's wondering, who hasn't read an awful lot about your business now, and you also mentioned you're working in a school too. What is Emma's Kitchen? Because there, as you say, and we haven't really hit on that, you obviously make everything extremely fresh too.
Yeah. So after I was made redundant, my youngest is at the school. The head teacher rang me and she said, "Oh, I've heard you've been made redundant. Do you fancy giving the school catering a go?" I said, "Yes, be fine," having no idea what came with that. And so I've done catering before in the past, and my ethos is everything's homemade. My sort of slogan is cooking with love. I'm not a chef. I don't do fancy. I just do whole, good, decent food, So that's how Emma's Kitchen was born. And it was just trying to get the children to be able to have food that it looks nice on a plate. I mean, some of the other food that caterers provide is just, you can tell that they're only in it for the money. And I think there's so much more to it than just making some money out of it. So I'm kind of on a one-woman mission to improve school dinners in Kent. And then the other half of the business, we do events and catering and afternoon teas, which have been a huge success. And during the last lockdown, we raised some money and we provided 500 afternoon teas to nurses and doctors and ambulance crews and vaccination centres. So that was a really nice thing to be able to do.
And you're still wondering why you've been nominated for the Community Award, Emma. Keep reading off the things to make me feel like I've been awful this year. Honestly, amazing. How have you found the time?
Well, because the school was closed, we were just doing so few school dinners. It was just a way to keep busy and to give something back to, those people who really were working really hard during a really awful time.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I've seen you're now planning, obviously, for the summer. You're keeping this going. I've seen you've released a summer menu as well. And obviously there's loads of information out there. Also, as you said, your afternoon teas and stuff. I saw an amazing picture on your Facebook page of an afternoon tea that I think you've done for a 40th birthday, and a chocolate fudge loaf cake in there. Oh, it looks so amazing.
Yeah, we've just started doing the catering at Lullingstone Castle.
Okay.
And they've got a really beautiful marquee there, and we serve takeaway coffees and cakes. So every week I try and think up a guest cake and trying to think of a different cake each week. I did an apple and blackberry crumble cake the other week, which was quite nice.
I'm meant to be on a diet, Emma. I'm meant to be. You can't.
That is the good thing about working in food. I'm never hungry, so I have lost quite a bit of weight.
I had a meeting the other day, and they got pizzas in, and I said, "Are these 0-calorie pizzas? Because otherwise I can't touch them." It's like, "Yeah, they're 0. Fine, that's fine for me. That's fine for me." But you are right though. Food trends are quite big at the moment, and especially with people making from home and supporting local. Have you seen that? Do you think that maybe lockdown? They say everything happens for a reason, but was potentially perfect timing for you to take this step into what you're doing now?
Yeah, it's been really hard. And obviously when the school shut in January, I had 2 members of staff. One I was able to furlough, but the other girl I still had to sort of find work for her and pay her a wage, which obviously when your numbers have gone from 80 to 15 is really tough. But the outcome of it is being nominated for this award. We've just landed our second contract for another school because they could see that we would, if there was another lockdown, which I hope there isn't, we would always support the school we're working in. And, during January, the poor kids that were in the school had to have all the windows and doors open, and at least they were able to have a hot meal at lunchtime, where some other caterers just walked away and said, "We're not going to make any money from this. Bye."
Yeah, it makes sense. And I've got one more question for you in terms of what I've seen on your Facebook page, because I've literally just scrolled past it because I needed to be reminded of this. The other day you put up a picture of, and I said, I said to my fiance last night, I've got to ask you this question. Whenever I make stuff like pasta bake or bolognese or lasagna, and I cut up those mushrooms, those onions, the kids pick the heck out of it. I can't seem to hide veg in anything. My kids are like super detective. If there's vegetables there, no thank you, it's on the floor. And the carpet is already ruined. We've been living here for 2 months. How do I hide veg to make my meals a little bit healthier for my children?
So I literally fry all the veg to soften it, add the tomato sauce, really cook all the vegetables down, and then we've got the kitchen is a stick blender, and just blitz it, and then none the wiser.
There it is.
And all the kids that hate vegetables when it's roast dinner day, you sit there just going,
If you knew,
Yes.
if you knew, I've tricked you. I've tricked you once.
Yes.
I've tricked you again. Love that. Right. Okay. That's it. What blender? I need a blitz blender. I need to get one.
Just
I
a
need to
stick
get one.
blender, because we did macaroni cheese yesterday, and we hid leeks and onions in it, and it brought it was made the macaroni cheese have a real sweet taste to it, but you had no idea the leeks were in there.
Do you know what? For me, what I love is when I do like a bolognese or anything for my daughter, and she can she'll see it. Like I would have accidentally left a mushroom there, right? And she's seen it straight away, but she can also see the little bit of cheese that I put on top. She'll literally pick off all the cheese and eat it individually and go, "Nah, I don't like this." And I'm like, "Why don't you eat bolognese anyway? Why don't you like it?" It's like, "Mushroom, I don't like this." And then that'll be it. She won't touch the dinner. Like she will touch none of it. So that's it. I've got to get on it. I've got to start changing up those portions and hiding the veg, the veg. Hashtag hide the veg. I think this could be something that we get trending at some point.
It is amazing how much you can hide in a pasta sauce.
Yeah, although I feel a little bit devious. It's like, oh, what can I do here to
it's for the good of the children. That's what you have to remember.
I agree, Emma. Look, we've spoken about loads of things, but ultimately as well, I take it, since joining the school and changing up the meals there and doing Emma's Kitchen, surely you've had some people in the background helping you along the way. So who are those people? Who do you want to give a shout out to?
So I should shout out to Kaylee and Chrissy, who work with me in the kitchen, who mainly clear up after me because I'm quite messy when I'm cooking. But they've been great. My family and friends have been so supportive. My mum and my sister especially helping out with the children when I've been working all the hours. And then to Zoe and Ruby, who work at the castle for me, bless them, in all weathers, whether it's rain, sunny, they're there serving the teas and coffees for me. So, yeah, I'm very lucky to have a great team around me.
And how nice is it for them and for you to get this pat on the back by the Taste of Kent Awards, to be appreciated by such a prominent I suppose movement within Kent's food and drink industry? How nice is it to get that appreciation? It's
so lovely, and for a business we're only 7 months old, it's a really nice achievement, and the recognition is just lovely. It's really good. And would you like to win it? How did it feel to win it? Oh, I keep saying to the girls, because we're going to have like a party in the garden, and I said, we probably won't win. And they said, but we might. And I said, oh, well, we probably won't. I said, but it's still really nice to be nominated. Right off. Yeah, anyone expecting meals on Thursday? Sorry, but it's not happening. Love that. Emma, well done to you and the team. Fantastic work this year serving your community, and what you've done with Emma's Kitchen is so selfless, and I think you're doing some really, really good stuff. Keep pushing that message, and thanks for educating me. Just in 14 minutes here, you've told me a number of things that I can take away and start doing as a parent. And I think ultimately, as parents, we all want to make sure that we are giving our children everything they need, not just when it comes to toys and love and affection, but also, health, getting them healthy, getting them to experiment with flavors. I feel like that's so important. Yeah, so important. And what we did last lockdown, which I really enjoyed during the summer months, was, everyone was only shopping once a week, and you had all that stuff left over in your fridge and you didn't know what to do with it. So we went through a phase of, I did it when I was a student and didn't have any money. It's called random recipes. And it was just stuff that you could make from your fridge. So then you were also saving money as well, because once I'd been made redundant, I was strapped for cash. Mind you, I still am now. Well, we'll always be strapped for cash. I don't think we could earn. I was saying to Charlotte the other day, I could earn an absolute fortune, and I'll still be trying to find pennies under the sofa at the end of the month. Honestly, somebody put something on Facebook saying your kids are in £100 trainers, and then they're you in Primark shoes or something. It's mad, isn't it? It's so funny, because I was trying to justify myself buying like a packet of socks the other day. I was just like, can this wait a couple of weeks? Because do I really need these? Yes, Ben, nearly all your socks have holes in and you haven't bought any since lockdown. So just buy them. It's £6. Like literally, it's always a conundrum, isn't it? But no, you are absolutely spot on. Well done on your nomination. Obviously a finalist in the Taste of Kent Awards. You're up for the Kent Community Award. You're in the final 3. Emma's Kitchen, Emma Barnes up for the award, as are Paul and Runny Barbara for their work with Carrara, and also Ellie and Heather of Olby Soul Cafe, who I think we're having on a future podcast. So it'd be great to chat to those guys as well. Congratulations for being a finalist, Emma. Congratulations on all your hard work, and keep it up, because I'm sure one day you'll get a surprise like a teacher did. I remember early on in the year on Anton Deck Saturday Night Takeaway, where everyone's saying thank you for the amazing work that you've done. So thank you on behalf of everyone you served.
How lovely was Emma Barnes there, the founder and director of Emma's Kitchen, set up during the pandemic, and she's thriving, absolutely thriving. Go and check out her Facebook page. Now all over the place, out and about doing many different things. But if there's one thing for sure, if you're a foodie and you love your food, get ready for those taste buds to tickle a little bit, checking out some of the stuff that Emma's making in that kitchen at the moment. Thank you, Emma Barnes, again, and best of luck to everyone in the Kent Community Award. As I said at the end, I think we're going to be chatting to Ellie and Heather from Old Be Sold Cafe next week, which will be our final podcast before the Taste of Kent Awards ceremony takes place. Right, should we move on? Our third and final guest. Looking forward to this one. I sat down and spoke to Claire Eckley of Eckley Farms. They are up for the Grow Award in this year's Taste of Kent Awards. Being a finalist in this category is such a good thing because you get appreciated for growing a number of different crops. You get on here for doing for being a multiple industrial farm, and you know, there's dairy farms. There's so many different farms out there that don't just serve the Kent community, but also the bigger food and drink industry across the UK. And Eckley Farm actually do quite a bit of things for brands that you may have heard of. Paley Farm are also up for the Kent Grower of the Year, as are Walmerstone Growers alongside Eckley Farm. So let's hear from the founder, one of the owners of Eckley Farm. Let's hear from Claire Eckley, all about Eckley Farms, her nomination. And I started off by asking her a very, very simple question of how everything is.
Everything is dry. So we're in the Grow of the Year category, and I'd say everything is dry. We're waiting for some rain, just like most gardeners are. Luckily, we planted most of our crops last autumn, so they're all in the ground, growing slowly, but we could really do with some rain to help things along.
Yeah, how important is seasons for you guys? Is farming very much seasonal? Tell us about what dry spells mean really for you.
Well, dry spells, sometimes you want it dry and sometimes you don't. So dry, we would want at harvest time. Farmers are never happy with the weather. It's never quite right. So it's a perennial moan, but of course, looking at more extreme weather events in the last few years, so that does make it tough. It means our windows for planting crops in the spring and the autumn become smaller, and we've got to really think more efficiently about how we can get those crops in the ground around the weather, and how we can help our local community as well by helping prevent flood, for instance, and preserving our soils for future generations. So weather is superbly important for farmers.
I suppose it's a little bit like all of us looking forward to the summer and then complaining when it's too hot, and looking forward to the winter thinking that we want to see some snow and then complaining that it's too cold.
Yeah, that's about the size of it. But you know, too hot weather, it affects, you know, the varieties of crop we grow, and also how we can look after it. So the inputs we use might not be as effective at certain weather types. So yeah, it's very important, and going forward, it's going to become more important as well.
I want to talk to you in a bit about your sustainable farming and modern technology as well. But first of all, just a top line for anyone who's watching right now, Claire, and wants to know a little bit more about Eckley Farm. Tell us a little bit about what you guys do.
So the Eckley Farm, Eckley family have been farming in and around Staplehurst since 1953. So we used to be a traditional mixed Kentish farm. So there were hops and dairy cows and apples, as well as arable. But all the other things have gone by the wayside. And just like most farmers, we've specialised into one sector. And for us, that's arable farming. So most of what we grow is wheat. Wheat is the thing that makes the money on an arable farm. So we aim all our wheat at the best quality. So it would be milling wheat, which goes to make bread. And then when we're not growing wheat, we're resting the soil as part of a managed rotation. And we would be growing crops like oilseed rape, oats, barley, beans, and then, but on our farm we grow a wide variety of other crops called cover crops, or catch crops or companion crops, and they are crops that we don't grow to harvest. We grow them for the benefit of the soil or the crop that's grown with it or after it, and it's that kind of thing that helps us increase our soil carbon content, and it helps us control pests and diseases as well. And as well, it soaks up all the heavy rainfall in the winter, and it acts like a sponge, and it releases that water more slowly into local watercourses and helps prevent flooding.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned some of your products there, but in a bit more detail, please tell us about some of the products that your farming produces.
Okay, so most of what we do is wheat, and most of so that would leave the farm in lorry loads of 30 tons at a time, and go up to big flour mills in Tilbury and South London. North London, and that would go into rank Hovis or King's Mill, for instance, or Warburton's bread. But you can find our stuff locally as well. So we press all our rapeseed into cold pressed rapeseed oil. So we do that on the farm here, and most of it gets sold in Kent. You can also find a little bit of our flour, so we keep some and we stone mill it on the farm, and you can buy that in little bags at independent shops, so farm shops all around Kent.
Nice. So there's a real still local, although you've got bigger corporations and companies using so to speak, your produce and obviously your bread and butter, you still obviously got a big emphasis on creating produce to sell locally, right?
Yes. So I think as an arable farmer, it's always quite tricky to be customer facing, to make something that a customer would actually use in their kitchen, because ultimately we grow wheat, but no one cooks with wheat. They cook with flour, and the same with rapeseed oil. It was always really interesting because we started off on the farmers market scene, but to go and talk to people about arable farming, and it's seen as one of the more industrial sorts of farming. The machinery is very large, it's very mechanized. We don't actually splosh lots of pesticides around, and it was really nice to be able to talk to people about that and have a really nice two artisan products that are available locally and all around the county.
Tell us a little bit about sustainable farming. What does that mean to you guys, and what natural ways are you starting to implement into your farming to make it more sustainable?
So we've got all those cover, companion and catch crops. So we've got quite a diverse cropping. We've also got very large areas of crops we're growing for pollinators. So lots of flower mix, and then bird feed in the winter. So lots of sunflowers and phacelia. People love seeing those last year. But sustainable for us means a lot of it's about net zero, so trying to get our carbon emissions down, but not just carbon emissions down, actually drag carbon out of the atmosphere and put it into the soil. So the best way of doing that is by always having a growing crop in the ground. So growing roots in the ground are exuding carbon containing compounds, and that's how we get our soil carbon up. So we tend to establish our crops using ways which disturb the soil the least. So we are doing a system called no-till. We are regenerative agriculturalists, and that's quite a buzzword now. So we, instead of using, for instance, solar panels or anaerobic digestion to get our carbon emissions down or make us net zero, we're actually looking at how we farm. So we're not using alternative ways. We're cutting our use of fossil fuels. We're cutting our use of pesticides. We cut our use of, this was great, when we changed our farming system to use a lot less fuel,
Yeah.
It was so noticeable. Our fuel supplier phoned us up and asked us who we changed to, which was great. So it's really a complex way of doing it. So we're using a lot less chemical fertilizers than your typical arable farm. So that's the main carbon emitting thing on arable farms. So we use a much lower rate, but that also means we're using lots of muck from our neighbouring farms. There's a dairy farm and a chicken farm nearby. We make compost on the farm, so we use those mucks to make compost. We take wood chip waste from a local arborist. We make compost tea, and it's so our sustainability is very much, it's constantly evolving, and it's really complex.
But it's great because it's going to make the world a difference, isn't it? And it's something that not just yourself, but a number of farmers are trying to find out the best way, and obviously a way that makes sense for their business as well to become sustainable. Because I've had this conversation with a few farmers that harvest and a few farmers that work on dairy farms as well. And it fascinates me the way that technology is changing within the farming industry, because nowadays you think about technology changes and most things you think about the fact that we're getting self-driving cars and the fact that we're getting industrial machinery to produce a number of different products all the time, and the way e-commerce works online and digital marketing. But within farming, technology is really starting to take off, isn't it? Like, for instance, I was reading on your website about like self-driving tractors, like how that works with satellites, and how businesses are incorporating machinery into even on the dairy farm to milk the cows and to treat the animals. It's quite, and they sort of read the animal's body to know about how they need to, how they need to. Honestly, technology in farming, it's come a long way, hasn't it?
Yes, and it's such an exciting time in agriculture. So we have this challenge, but we also have all this technology, and it's part of it is taking applications like satellite technology and saying, how can we use that? And then, mobile phones and the smartphone has absolutely revolutionized what a farmer can access about crop records in the field. There's still some other things, one thing we'd really like to see get smartened up is some of the carbon footprint tools. So there's quite a few around for farming at the moment. So you can plug all your data into these different tools, but they'll come up with different answers as to whether you're sequestering or emitting carbon. And at some stage, there will be one of the models will become the gold standard, and it's the one we'll all use. But until then, we're still guessing a bit. Some of them don't take into account some of the nuances that you might have on your farm or the way you're growing your crops. So, for instance, we grow cover crops. Not all of the models take that into account, because that's a good thing. That drags carbon down into the soil. So there's plenty of stuff to do. And yeah, it really is a very exciting time. And we're lucky to be in an era where it's quite easy to share ideas and share mistakes as well, actually, across the world. Thanks to social media, you can be talking to a farmer in Canada or Australia about what they're doing and say, what can we share? So it's good fun. As well as that, the social media's allowed us to share the sort of wildlife and biodiversity aspects of the farm as well. So there's local nature groups, and because we know they're there now, and we can see that they're quite responsible people who like monitoring and recording wildlife and also ringing birds. So we've allowed them access to come onto the farm and look for rarer species. So we're really pleased to have yellowhammers and linnets on the farm, and I think we've had some ravens, which is very exciting, and some tree sparrows. So yes, but it's of course, as a farmer, I'm like, it's a small, interesting bird. I couldn't actually identify one, and that's where we need those experts from our local community to come and help and share. So it's good fun. Yeah.
bringing the community together. I love it. And of course, it's all these reasons why you are up for the Taste of Kent Awards, or you are a finalist in the Taste of Kent Awards Kent Grower of the Year category. Eckley Farms sit next to Paley Farm and Walmstone Growers as well in this category. So how does it feel to be nominated or to be a finalist, Claire?
It feels amazing because, of course, there's loads of growers in Kent, and it's a really, there's a lot of diversity in the sector, which is actually shown by the 3 finalists. So you've got livestock farmers, so they're just down the road from us, actually. And then we're like a family-owned arable farm, and then Walmerston are horticulturalists. And it's amazing as well to be able to share innovation, or to show innovation. And for us, innovation hasn't had to cost us a lot, and hopefully to show other farmers that you don't need lots of money to spend on community engagement or innovation. Just crack on and get on your social media and brew up your compost tea, and reap the benefits, really.
And who are the faces behind the business? Who do you want to shout out this afternoon?
Well, shout out to my husband, who's going to have his vaccine,
nice.
And also his parents, Mike and Vera. Mike and Vera, so they're the original Eckley Farms crowd. So they're both well into their 70s, but both still very much involved in the business. I've got 2 sons, James and Thomas. They're still in school, but they are now old enough to drive tractors and help. Nice. And then we've got 3 part-time casual workers. So Jules helps make the rapeseed oil. And then we've got George, who's our more regular farm worker, and Callum, who comes in, and he's very good at hedge cutting and planting hedges. So that's our team.
Lovely. And how would it feel to take home this award then, Claire? Would it be a nice bit of appreciation to show the years of work? I know you've been finalists and in the past in the Taste of Kent Awards, but would this be a nice thing to sort of appreciate the, so to speak, everstay of Eckley Farms?
Yeah, it'd be lovely to win it, especially in that company. We're more familiar with Paley, but they're regenerative agriculturalists as well, and to showcase that with them is brilliant for a really forward-looking system of agriculture, which hopefully has a major role to play in climate change and helping prevent it. So it'd be great, and we hope that people, when they shop, as well as shopping local, try and support growers that use systems that you like. So, for instance, we like to think we're dragging lots of carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and plonking it in the ground, and lots of biodiversity. If you like that as a member of the public in Kent, then find those farmers who grow that way and buy their stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And the Kent food and drink industry, and when it comes to generating such incredible local produce, we owe a lot to the local farms and a lot to the local agriculture. So thank you for doing what you do, Claire, and thank you for jumping on today. Best of luck in the Grower of the Year category. That's the Taste of Kent Awards. We'll find out in May who will take home the Kent Grower of the Year category. Would it be Eckley Farm? Would it be Paley Farm? Or would it be Walmstone Growers? We shall find out next month. Claire, thank you so much for taking out some time to chat this afternoon. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. It's been lovely to chat.
On a slight delay, but Claire on top form there. Thank you, Claire. Eckley Farms up for Grower of the Year. It's going to be an interesting category like this year. Some great finalists doing all different things, really, within the Kent food and drink industry. Hey, thank you for joining me. I've been Ben. We're Digital Beans. Go and check us out on socials. We'll be back next week with our final Scale Up Stories Taste of Kent Awards podcast, as the week after the virtual ceremony is happening. Well, I've got one question to ask. I've RSVP'd. Do I need to wear a tux? Like, is it like smart on top, like sort of jogging bottoms on the bottom kind of thing, because no one will be able to see like down from here. Let's wait and see, shall we? I'll keep you guys updated as I tend to make that decision, or as I start to make that decision. Thank you for watching today. Make sure you check us out on all your podcast platforms to check out more like this. And we shall be back next week with our final Taste of Kent Awards podcast in the build up to this year's virtual ceremony. Keep celebrating local food and drink. Keep celebrating Kent food and drink. And I'll speak to you next time. Stay safe, everyone. Ciao for now.